Love is for, to give all the fathers, whoever just didn't show up the way they wanted to show up, an out. No one taught me how to love. Nobody had a Miss Gladys Petty in their life to teach them how to love and to love at the depth of their heart. The call came. We can change that picture now. The call came from God. And the call said, this is what you need to be doing. This is your calling. Teach the children. Take care of the children. It's the same call that went to Myrtle Fillmore, co-founder of Unity. And it was placed upon Gladys Petty's heart. Gladys Petty then courageously went back to school, and she got her teaching credential from Toronto University. Today, we celebrate Miss Gladys 100 years young, and the thousands upon thousands of children that were impacted by her courageous answer of the call. You're going to get a chance to stand up in a minute. There's going to be lots of opportunities. 45-year career as a teacher. And as a single mother, Gladys served as father and mother to 2 children and helped raise her granddaughter, Carolyn, who is also equally a beautiful flower. Most of you did not know that Gladys Petty was a pilot. Up in Canada, she flew airplanes. She's tough as well as smart and loving. She was a businesswoman who financed a restaurant at one point and opened, operated, managed, and built from the ground floor up 2 different schools. It went from her vision to the reality because Gladys Petty put her body behind the dream. Gladys Petty put her energy, her time, her spirit, her sweat, and her soul behind the dream. And as I read some bio material, she even built a pool without any permits from the state of Florida. She's tough, isn't she? Gladys Petty is a woman beyond her time. Let's go ahead and put the certificate up there. Here is a certificate of recognition. I don't know if you can read it. It's pretty small print. But it talks about these various schools that she served. She was a woman beyond her time, a true entrepreneur, a sincere truth student, a lover of children, a strong and intelligent lady, a dedicated chaplain, and a devoted servant to prayer. She sounds like Myrtle Fillmore incarnate to me, although she was alive at the same time Myrtle Fillmore was. She served as a director of St. Catherine's Preschool in Canada for 12 years. And she boldly, on her own, picked up stakes and came to the great country of the United States in 1962, where she continued to serve as a teacher, a director of schools, eventually opening 2 of her own schools in Naples, Florida, and in Fort Myers, Florida. The recognition of that is on there. All this time, Gladys was teaching Sunday school. And eventually, we were blessed and honored to have her teach Sunday school here at Unity North. Many of the adults that you see around here were sitting at the feet of Miss Gladys in Sunday school, and the consciousness was raised out of her willingness to do so. It's okay to clap. Come on. Amen. Give me an amen. All of that was wrapped up in a prayer consciousness that is completely and totally unmatched in my years as a minister. For years, every prayer placed in that box right back there went home first to the consciousness of Miss Gladys, who for 1 entire month, every morning, pulled those prayers out and held the high watch for the people that were seeking something. And after a month with Miss Gladys, it went to Unity Village. I have a vision of the prayer chaplains at Unity Village getting those prayer requests and going, oh, Gladys had this. It's done. In the mind of God, it's done. But in the mind of Gladys Petty, it's done. And it is complete. She diligently prayed over those prayers every single month for years. When Gladys, I'm not going to dwell on this, but it is important to recognize this beautiful woman's heart. Gladys's son was tragically taken from her when he was just 16. Gladys Petty had the strength to show up in court and to publicly express her forgiveness to the man who had carelessly taken that life. I want to follow her example. I want to live her example. That's the kind of person that she is. I asked Gladys when we met, what are the most important things in life? What are the 3 most important things? And without a hesitation, without reservation, she said the following words: something to do, something to love, and something to hope for. When it comes to these 3 things, Gladys, we got Marilyn Monroe in the house. When it comes to these 3 things, Miss Gladys, you have served God, you have served this community, you have served children beyond well. You have loved beyond measure and continue to love beyond measure. You have given hope to a lot of people. You have made a huge difference. And when I assumed the role of minister in this church, I leaned into your consciousness. And you're my shining star, dear one. I sat in the back of this room. Yeah, God's second, right? No. Put God first, I'll be somewhere here. But I remember a moment that I sat with Miss Gladys when I needed to know that I was somebody that I didn't know I was. And I sat back at the prayer box there and I said, Miss Gladys, I don't think I can do this. And you gave me the hope. And you loved me. And you kicked me in the ass. Gladys's favorite flower is Lily of the Valley. And we worked very hard to find some Lily of the Valley blooming. Kind of struck out on that. But we did find, thank you to Yvonne James, we have 2 Lily of the Valley plants, and you have the choice to either take those home with you, because they will be blooming next May, or to plant them here on the property as a symbol of the blessings that you have forever given this congregation. Lily of the Valley represents sweetness, happiness, humility, and purity. Today, Miss Gladys, we celebrate and honor your sweetness, your joy, your humility, and your purity of heart and spirit. There is a Buddhist belief system that there's only 2 things that matter in this world. And those 2 things are you living fully and are you loving wastefully? Without reservation, I know that Miss Gladys can answer a resounding yes to that. And I believe that that deserves the standing ovation you wanted to give earlier. Miss Gladys, this is for you. I love you. Miss Gladys believes in angels. Besides being one, she is connected to them, and it takes a true mystic to look beyond the veil to the place of oneness and connection that we all, as students, work to see. She doesn't have to work at it. 100 years of knowing everything that we teach on Sunday morning has been demonstrated. And I promised her when she's been asking for a party since she was 92. And I told her, when you turn 100, this day will be turned over to you. You are going to have to listen to me do a talk anyway. But a song, Gladys and I wrote a song about 4 years ago in preparation for this moment. We sat down and created the music, and she was very picky about the notes that she wanted. It gives a wonderful insight into the mystic that this lady is. It's called "Oh Hidden Life." And this was composed by Gladys Petty and Richard Burdick. Oh, hidden life, vibrant in every atom, hidden life, vibrant in every atom. May each soul know themselves as one with thee, and know that they are one with every other. Hidden light shining in every creature, hidden light shining in every creature. May each soul know themselves as one with thee, and know that we are one. Oh, hidden love, embracing all in oneness. Embracing love, revive and set us free. Hidden life, vibrant in every atom. May each soul know themselves as one with thee, and know that they are one with every other. Gladys, you are a true mystic, and that which is only touched on in this song is demonstrated in your ability to see the face of God everywhere you go. We here at Unity North are studying a book, and Greg Braden's going to be here. He's a scientist and a theologian all in one, and he is no more than Miss Gladys is in his ability to play in new ideas. And so I want to introduce that book a little bit. He's going to be here in September, and we're doing a book study starting on Tuesday. And in that book, Human by Design, he's asking questions. Who are we? Why are we here? Where did we come from? Anybody ask that question ever? You know, science has been asking that question forever, and they do have a few answers, but there are still blank spaces in the scientific community. They can't answer emphatically where we came from. There's a big bang. They know it was there, but they don't know what it is and what the source of it was. Religion. Throughout the ages, religion has been asking these questions. Spiritual people have been asking and answering these questions, yet there are still blanks, missing links in the answer from a religious standpoint. These eternal questions are part of it. And so as scientists and as spiritual beings, we have to be okay with the not knowing. The human ego does not like to be okay with the not knowing, and so we make up stories to fill in the blanks until new information comes. You notice that? Faith is a wonderful, beautiful thing, but sometimes faith makes things up, and we wait until the information does download and we fill in the blanks. Now, science doesn't make stuff up too much, but science would just walk away from the dialogue and the discussion when they don't have the answer that they need. They go try to disprove your theory in the laboratory. But the reality is, for the first time, I believe, in a very long time, scientists are not being put to death by religious people. Scientists are not being discounted by religious people. And religious people are not being discounted by scientists. Greg Braden is forming a bridge, a magnificent and beautiful bridge between the two things. He is serving as a mystic. And new ideas and new paradigms are shifting and changing, not only in churches, but in laboratories as well. And we, as spiritual seekers, must pay attention and be willing to discard old stories that no longer make any sense, that the new story, the new paradigm can emerge from a test tube or a pew. In the mind of a scientist, a thinker, or the mind of a spiritual person who has a revelation, it's all God happening. And we must be willing to open up our mind, our hearts, and our spirits, and to live like Miss Gladys to say, after 100 years, I'm ready to learn more. Michelangelo said at one point, I'm still learning. Wow. Miss Gladys, when I meet with her, says, I'm still learning. I don't have a corner on the market of truth. And so she looks and still reads books. And when I come to meet with her, she still wants to debate certain things that I teach from this platform. I love that about it. But God as life, and life as God is an ever-expansive environment. And if we are on a growing path, we must be willing to grow and expand with it and leave old paradigms behind us, because new gospels are being written every single day. It's being written in churches. It's being written at home as new authors are writing new material, and it's written in the laboratory of people like Greg Braden, who is merging science and spirituality in a beautiful, beautiful place. I'm going to give you 4 new stories today from that book, and I hope that if you argue with them, you'll come to the book study on Tuesday night, because there are scientists that argue with what Dr. Braden is putting out. There are also religious people arguing with what Braden is putting out. But what if the new stories are true? You know, here's something, people who are minds of science, they have faith. They have faith. I don't know one discovery on this planet that did not begin with the faith that there might be a new reality when they went into the laboratory. Something to prove. As idea in the mind of a scientist, there had to be faith to go put the work, years and years and years of study to get to that place where a new revelation came. I want to give a foundation to our dialogue from Charles Fillmore, a religious man who also embraced science. You know, Fillmore said at one point, I reserve the right to change my mind at any given moment. I reserve the right to change my mind because he understood this expansive environment. He understood the new information was being downloaded. Let's read it together. This is what he has to say in his book, The Atom-Smashing Power of Mind. Together. Science tells us that there is a universal life that animates and sustains all the forms and shapes of the universe. Science has broken into the atom and revealed it to be charged with tremendous energy that may be released and be made to give the inhabitants of the earth power beyond expression when its law of expression is discovered. Science, physics, spirituality, and metaphysics both have as a common foundation law. If you read the Bible, the word Lord happens over and over and over and over again. The accurate translation of Lord is law, the operating influences that are steady, dependable. You can count on the law. Any scientist will tell you that he's working, she's working with laws in the laboratory. We have that in common. A bridge begins to be built. What if we could transcend as spiritual people any binary thinking, any duality thinking that says science or religion, they cannot exist? Is it possible that evolution and creative intelligence and creative design could exist in the same field? Dr. Greg Braden says yes. One does not discount the other, but they can exist on the same bridge, and a new mindset can come. 2 heads are better than 1. In his book, he's talking a heck of a lot about the intelligence of the heart. For so long, science has said this is the activity of the brain. It's all the intellect is all up here in the brain. But science is now showing us that the heart is telling the brain what to do, that the heart is guiding the process. And these are 2 great partners. Could it be that science and spirituality need to be facing the same direction for the new paradigms to reveal, the new stories to come about? I believe it's so. Miss Gladys certainly is a clear understander that you must teach and you must pray, that the 2 are absolutely necessary for the full life. Nobody gets to be 100 by accident. There's a consciousness behind turning 100. Teaching and praying are absolutely essential. New story number 1. And go ahead and go to the place of argument if you'd like. Go ahead and go to the place of disagreement or agreement. Bring those questions on Tuesday night to the group. Life is not random. Say that with me. Life is not. We did not evolve by some sort of chance, accident, or mutation. Science is showing that there is an order to the universe that has been operating since the beginning of time. And there is a fatherly, motherly intelligence behind all of creation. We are not a product of accident or chance. And new DNA evidence is absolutely showing that we are not quite as linked to the Neanderthals as we originally thought. Although there are some people that attend here occasionally Might be that missing link, I don't know. DNA evidence is showing us that the genetic code of the human race as we know it today cannot be linked. We're related, distantly related to the apes, the Neanderthals, but there was a moment in time when something happened in creation. Poof, there was a light. There was a magnificence. Something began to resemble a place of order, and our genetic code is leading us to the conclusion that we are a strain unto ourselves. We are a unique species that appeared upon this earth much more instantaneously than over centuries and centuries and centuries. This is what Dr. Braden is sharing. My word, not Dr. Braden's. We're here by a divine appointment, not by accident. Miss Gladys did not make her way to Florida by accident. There was a divine appointment. Now, I'm not saying that, don't get me wrong, that I believe in Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden and the whole fall from the grace. That is archaic thinking. It's a wonderful mythology that can instruct our spiritual path, but it didn't happen. Adam and Eve exist in this room here today. The energy of that story exists in our hearts today. But the DNA evidence and the code is showing us that there was a singularity, that there was a moment of conception where there was light. It explains all the missing links between point A and point H that science cannot fill in, that religion can't fill in. We can make it up, but maybe we don't have to. There was evolution happening on the planet. We're not going to argue that. But there was a moment in that evolutionary process where something happened. You know, if you look at a sperm meeting an egg under a microscope, there is a moment. Light. You can see actual light. Braden is saying there was a moment on earth when that same thing happened. Something was downloaded onto the face of the planet, and there was a moment of light. Maybe it's the little bang, maybe it's the big bang. It doesn't really matter what it was. He is saying that we are the product today of that impulse of light that found its way, and that all of the good that we could ever desire was born in that moment. Not learned over time by accident, not trial and error. Could living in the awareness of that light here today help us live to be 100? Could living in the awareness that we're not an accident, that we have a divine purpose, and there's a reason, something to do, something to love, and something to be the very tool through which we live to be 100 and far beyond 100. Story number 2. Let's continue that energy of life not being random. Read it with me together. We are the result of an intentional act. All right, this is where the scientists start to get a little uncomfortable. But the reality is a scientist is writing this in a scientific book. We are not the byproduct of natural selection, where survival of the strongest, survival of the fittest means that we are perpetually locked in a state of conflict and competition with each other. Who is the biggest? Who is the strongest wins. Science is saying that doesn't make any sense. It's not exactly the truth. Rather, we are a product of a spiritual system whereby survival of the most able to access our innate abilities, those are the ones that survive. There was a moment of light. There was a moment of poof. And all the good that you have ever experienced and ever will experience came to life in that moment for your ancestors. We often say in Unity that all the God that you could ever desire exists at the point of view. There's no more God available tomorrow than there is today, in this now moment. Dr. Braden is saying there was no more God, good, wisdom, intellect, ability, skill, and talent available at any point after that moment of poof, that moment of light. And so we are a product of those who were able to access the divine essence. I call it divine essence. He doesn't use that word. The intelligence. Those who were able to dig into the depth of what is on the inside of them are the ones that survived. You are a product of intellect, not survival of the strongest. You are not here by accident. Living to be 100 is certainly an accessing of the spiritual truth that's been there all along. This is what Charles Fillmore has to say about it. Let's read this together. Have faith in the power of your mind to penetrate and release the energy that is pent up in the atoms of your body, and you will be astounded at the response. Paralyzed functions anywhere in the body can be restored to action by one speaking to the spiritual intelligence and life within them. Myrtle Fillmore, our co-founder, did that. She was given a death sentence that said, make peace with your Creator, and she said, oh, no, 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 and she began to talk to her body. She began to talk to that divine intelligence within her and to call a greater reality forth. Miss Gladys, you go spend any time in her presence, she talks to her body. I sat there one time, and she held her hand over her eye, and she talked to her eye, and gave thanks, gratitude for that eye. She still sees better than I do today because she has a consciousness. Now, is there survival of the fittest? Are we a product of external realities? Yes, we are. We're not denying that. We have environments that affect how we act, how we behave, how we grow, how we mature, but there must be a middle ground. There must be a place in the middle where consciousness meets the environment. And if we were subject only to our environment, what a horrible, suffering place that would be. Something's moving on the inside as well as the outside. We are not limited by our external environment, but only by our internal environment, which takes us to news story number 3. Next one. Together, we have a causal relationship with our body. You don't have the body you have by accident. You don't live to be 100 by accident. None of us are in our particular experience by accident. We are only the product of external conditions, not only the product of external conditions, but internal ones. Outer and inner technology are necessary for evolution. Outer and inner technology are necessary for evolution. I often visit people in the hospital, and when I go to the hospital, I tell them, sometimes in metaphysics we deny science. We say, oh, don't give any credence to the doctors. Don't listen to what they have to say. That is malpractice. Doctors and nurses and medication, these are gifts of God. Scientific, intellectual gifts of God. But I say, I'm here to bring the inside-out medicine. That's the prayer that science doesn't understand. Science is beginning to understand. Meditation. I bring that into the hospital room. And when the inner technology of prayer meets the outer technology of doctors and medicine and surgeons, look out. We return home to the wholeness that we are. We return home to the magnificence of our very soul. Survival of those most able to access the inner technology will survive. Survival not of the strongest physically, but survival of those who were most in touch with the inner technology. Modern medicine is phenomenal, isn't it? The things, I watched a video of an open heart surgery on an unborn fetus and went, thank God for science. Thank God for science. And thank God for faith, because that doctor who did that first surgery on an unborn fetus had to believe it was possible. Had to say, I think this can be done. The inner technology met the outer technology, and babies were saved. Lives were saved, and lives flourished. I don't believe that living to 100 is going to be any kind of a rare thing. It's pretty rare today, but I guarantee you that we have consciousness leading the way. That living to 100, there might be 50 or 60 of you that are going to live that long, and you're going to be as vibrant as she is. You're going to be as alive as she is. You're going to be as quick as she is. You're going to be fully experiencing and expressing life as much as Miss Gladys. Follow the example. Talk to her. Talk to her. Pick her mind. Listen to her heart and go, something's operating here. Yes, she goes to the doctor. Yes, she takes medication, and she meets the outer technology with an inner technology. Fillmore has to say this. Let's read the next quote together. The heavenly kingdom to which Jesus so often referred is the unlimited spiritual consciousness where mind and body are equal in all activities. You are a human being. Have a human experience, but have a spiritual experience too. And when the human meets the spiritual, nothing can stop you from being the radiating center of God being and intelligence that you were designed in and as. New story number 4. This is where Greg Braden starts to get a little bit of critique from the scientific world. But what if it's true? What if what he's saying is true? Together, We are not separate beings. We are cells within a magnificent cosmology of wholeness. We're linked in such a way that we are affecting evolution not only for ourselves. Miss Gladys is not only affecting evolution of her body, her spirit, and her mind, but yours as well. Because she is part of an intrinsic fabric, a quilt of being and life and essence, like a great web. You ever see a spider web? One side of that web moves, it affects the other side of the web. You throw a pebble into a pond, the other side of the pond is feeling the effects of it. That's what Braden is saying, is that my consciousness is affecting somebody oceans away. That as a common humanity, as a beautiful, magnificent web of creation, that you are evolving the entire human race, not just you. He uses a term that I'd never heard before, and it is called irreducible complexity. Anybody ever heard that before? Get the book and start investigating it. I have some friends that I called when I was introduced to irreducible complexity, and they have scientific minds. And they threw about 20 articles at me debating Braden's findings. And then I found 20 more articles debating the truth of this finding. We are not separate beings. Basically, what irreducible complexity means is if any portion of a system stops working, the whole system fails. If any part of a system of our humanity stops working or is suffering, the whole suffers. Let me put that in unity terms, in religious terms. We belong to each other. We need each other. Your suffering is my suffering. And until I can cooperate in that truth and to reach out to you in your suffering, the system is not functioning. We are not evolving. We are not revealing. We are not doing anything except being a stagnant environment. So not only is your suffering my suffering, your blessing is my blessing. Your good is my good. So can I celebrate your magnificence? Can I fly up to New York City, which is pure hell for this minister, and celebrate 3 graduates that we're going to celebrate next week, that were being ordained, and for no other purpose than to go, you are magnificent, and I celebrate your good, and then to come back knowing that I'm more as a result of celebrating these 3 beautiful women. I hope you'll come back and celebrate them next week. But the reality is we are intrinsically linked to each other, and as Miss Gladys might put it, every child needs our love. Every child, every age of every child needs our love. And I've been asked by a lot of people to comment on that particular idea with what's going on in our world today. I'm on thin ice here, but I will say emphatically that any gospel, that any book, that any scripture that is used as a weapon to divide people is wrong. If science or spirituality is used to create a didactic, a dualistic system, it is false. It is false teaching, and it must fall the way of the old thoughts. It must fall the way of the old thinking, of the old technology, that a new story and a new paradigm can come to be. So, back to the original question. Who are we? Who are we? Here's the answer from Greg Braden's book, Human by Design, through my filter. We are a beautifully evolving system of intellect and intuition. We are a beautifully evolving system of intelligence of the brain and intelligence of the heart. We are physical and metaphysical energies in form, operating with physical and metaphysical law and love. We are earth, we are heaven. We are the byproduct of spirituality and science. We are the byproduct of cause and effect. I hope to see each of you at the book study Tuesday night for a rip-roaring dialogue about these new stories. But what if they're true? What if everything that Unity has been teaching for years and years and years is coming into the laboratory in such a way that we're now proving the spiritual concepts? We must come with an open mind, because science is going to try and debunk. That's what science does, and I'm grateful for that. But I believe that we're going to meet in the middle, outer and inner technology, doctors and prayer, all in a great field of proving that evolution is nothing more than a revealing of the innate, beautiful, magnificent soul that each and every one of us is individually and that we are collectively. Let evolution and involution be great partners. As you think about your family, the human race, let evolution be coupled and partnered and embraced in a place of involution. We're going to take that idea into meditation right now, exactly what we're doing, involution. The sense that the consciousness and the spirit that is here is about to evolve the human race by right of so many people joining in consciousness. I'm going to invite you to hold in your heart during this meditation Miss Gladys Petty. And to hold every child in a place of love. Something to do, something to hope for, something to love. Let yourself right now in this moment be the energetic, sweet scent of the lily of the valley. Let it, the aroma of your consciousness be so profound that the laboratory, the church, the test tube, and the pew are recognized as one.